Next up, a Stuka. Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and my next project, the Academy 1/72 scale JU87G-1 Stuka Tank Buster. So first and foremost, I want to thank Keith Short of the short review series that I do, where he gives me kits and has me review them online for him or on YouTube. He gave me this kit to build. So Keith, if you're watching, thanks. This looks like a really cool kit. I can't wait to dig in. Next up, a quick little, very short history of my encounters with Stukas. The first one I ever built was it was an old monogram kit, and it was a tank buster as well. Had the cannon slung under the wings, and that was in the late-ish 70s. 1/48 scale kit when I was in junior high. And I basically built it straight out of the box, no paint except for like painting the tires and the barrels, stuff like that. I think I painted the props, but you know, back then models were molded in color, so you didn't have to paint them. That's what I thought anyway. And I just stuck the decals on bare plastic and I was good to go. So not long after that, I built the 1/32 scale Revel Kit. It was a Stuka that had the big red. It was in like the tropical tan color, whatever it is they use in the Luftwaffe, and it had the big red snake on the side. And that one I did paint top and bottom. One of the first kits I painted the whole thing, as a matter of fact, but that was about the same time frame, just a little bit after the 1/48 scale kit. So that's all the experience I have with Stukas. So when this one came up, it's a subject I've been wanting to build for a while, and when he asked me if I wanted to build this one, I said sure thing. So here it is. So let's start taking a look at the box, and then we'll dig into the contents. First off, as I say, it's the 1/72 scale JU87G-1 Stuka Tank Buster, kit number 12450. This was newly tooled in 2002 and has had a number of iterations with new boxings and stuff like that. This particular box is dated 2019, and oddly enough, I can't find this box configuration on Scalemates. So I don't know if there were different decals added or if there was any changes other than the box. On the cover, you have this nice painting of the subject. And then on the side, some photos of the actual aircraft built, the actual kit built. A little bit of descriptive stuff there. The end box, same cover art there. And then just telling you there's a model kit in the box, and it looks like this one was imported by the Model Rectifier Corporation, and it's for ages 14 years and up. So that's the box. Let's dig into the contents. All right, first let's take a look at the paperwork type stuff in the kit. So it comes with a number of little things. You get a check with part list before unsealing, because each of the sprues is in a plastic bag. It's a little warning there. Then you have a guidelines for beginners, recommending certain tools, certain ways of doing things, what some of the stuff means on the instructions, how to cut the decals and apply them. And then it has some selective tools: cement in bottle, enamel color set, 2 paintbrushes included. I can't really tell what brand of paint that is. Maybe it's Academy brand, I don't know. But that comes with it. And then you have a warning in assembly of model kits. Just gives you warnings on the different materials and procedures and stuff. And it's in a number of different languages. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 languages. So typical of kits nowadays with all the warnings and such. All right, next we have the instructions. Very small. Again, I just give some information on the actual aircraft itself in 3 different languages on here. Then it gives like a little key here in very small print of what the different symbols mean that a person will see throughout the instructions. So then we've got, read this before you begin. Then it just shows, like any other instructions, most aircraft start with Cockpit, and this one's no different. Looks like a pretty low parts count judging off of this. So shouldn't take a whole awful lot of time to build it. But fuselage together, then working on the front end, the front cowling, propeller, etc. Excuse me. And then attaching that to the fuselage, upper cowling parts in front of the cockpit there. Then the wings, which is pretty simplified and pretty cool actually. Places to drill some holes for the underwing cannons, I'm sure. Then attaching the wings of the fuselage, the horizontal stabilizers, some other small parts. Then the landing gear spats, I believe these are called. Attaching those. Tail wheel. And some, those are probably cooling intakes there. And an antenna maybe. And then these supports for the horizontal stabilizers, which when I build it, I will probably do those at the same time I do the horizontal stabilizers, just to make sure everything's all level and looking like it's supposed to. Then we get into all these small parts along the lower edge of the wing here, the counterweights. Then the cannons. Gives you a nice little illustration here on how to make sure everything's lined up. The right angles, installation of the cannons, installation of the cockpit canopy, and you can either do it as one whole piece closed in, or you can do it in separate pieces. So I'm assuming you could have the front and rear sliding portions of the canopy in the open position. And that's it for the assembly. So there are 11 steps and not very much going on in each step. So should be a fairly quick build. Then on the back of the instructions you have, you know, as I mentioned early on, there's that little red warning thing that says check with part list before unsealing, just to make sure that everything is correct. It's just like kind of a roadmap of all of the sprues. So that is the instructions. Now these instructions are dated 2002, which is when the kit was newly tooled. Next we have the color callouts for the 2 versions that are available, the 2 marking options that are available in this kit. So we've got JU87G-1, whatever that is, flown by Hauptmann Hans Ulrich Rudel, or Rudel, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Then it gives you the color callouts for the main colors and marking placement, decal placement. Then on the other side we have JU87G-1 with a bunch of, I'm assuming Korean writing, so I don't know where this was based or anything else. And the color callouts for that as well, and decal placement. And this one is also dated 2002. Next we have the decals. 2002 Academy Plastic Model Company, printed in Korea. So let's take these out, take a look. They seem really thin, which is good. Nice little instrument panel decal there, which will be fine because, you know, 1/72 scale is pretty small. But everything looks in register, everything's like nice and even, And yeah, not much to say there. Look like decent decals. Kind of shiny, but no big deal because I'm going to be spraying a final clear coat on it to kind of help blend it all together. So that is the decals with the cat hair in there. Next up we have the sprues. They're in plastic bags. In this case 2 sprues in this bag, 3 in this one, so you know, keeps from getting scuffed up too much in transit. So let me cut these open and we'll take a look at the individual sprues. Alright, first up we have sprue A, which is the fuselage halves, the cowling that goes right in front of the cockpit, prop spinner, prop base plate, back plate, whatever you want to call it, exhaust, the machine guns for the bloke in the back. I don't know if he's a navigator or what, but in looking at these parts, they all look really well molded. Actually, there's a little tiny bit of flash on the prop right there, but that's not too bad. The panel line detail is real fine. It's not big trenches like some brands can do with nice rivet detail and such. So not really too many places to have to rescribe once the aircraft's put together and cleaned up. So that looks pretty good. Again, these are dated 2002. So yeah, that's sprue A. Pretty good looking parts. Interior detail. Got some interior detail on the cockpit molded on, which, you know, is fine for this scale. I mean, you get too much small stuff and it's just atrocious. But that's pretty good. So that is sprue A. Next we have sprue B. We have the front of the fuselage, the part that encapsulates the engine. There's not an engine in this, but that's where it would be. More small parts. This here, I believe, is the divider between the pilot and the navigator, or whatever is in the back. Control stick, other small parts, the instrument panel, which has raised detail, so I'll have to use some solvent on there to make sure it settles in good. The pilot seat, the navigator seat. Let's see, I think this is like a radio set right there that goes where the well, I guess maybe he's a navigator and radio operator, let's call him that. And the cockpit floor. Little tiny bit of flash right there, but it's on the seam, so it doesn't really matter that much. It's gonna have to be sanded right there anyway. So the detail is really good. This is a really small part, but the sprue gate is not too bad. Sometimes on these smaller parts, depending on the brand, those sprue gates can be pretty large and can make it tricky cutting these smaller, thinner parts off, more delicate stuff. But anyway, that's sprue B. Sprue C, we have the cannons. Now, here's the nice thing. The barrels are slide molded, so the ends are hollow. So I won't have to drill those out, and they're not separate parts. So that's kind of nice. And it's molded onto one half of the pod, which is nice, which makes it easy to keep things lined up. And then the other half of the pod, you know, will obviously glue on there. We've got some ejector pin marks there. They look like they might have like a little bit of a ridge right there that's standing proud of the surface, so I may have to scrape those down to make sure these parts glue together tightly. Then we have the mounts for the pods there, and then more smallish parts. I think this is probably, if it was just a regular JU87, it wouldn't have this sprue here, because it looks like all these parts are purely related to the guns, the 37mm guns. Then we have sprue D, which is the upper wing surfaces, the rear horizontal stabilizers, the landing gear spats, and then some of the counterweights. Now these have some flash on them, so those are going to be kind of fun to clean up because they're so small. I don't know if those are counterweights or actuators or what they are, but it's part of the lower wing stuff. Then we have the supports for the rear horizontal stabilizers. Then we have these parts here. I don't know what they are. I'll have to look them up in my anatomy book. But anyway, detail looks really good. These spots right here, they look like, in looking at them, excuse me, they look like sink marks almost, but it's not. It's just where the plastic is injected in there. It's just kind of a swirly pattern. Once it's painted, it'll never be noticed. And looks good. And there's no ejector pin marks on them. That's nice. They're here on the outside of the part, so that'll make it much easier. So, yep, that looks pretty good. Sprue D. We have the last of the gray styrene sprues, and this is Sprue E, which is the lower wing, which it's nice. It's all one long, solid piece. So that's kind of nice. We got the wheels here, the tail wheel, some more parts here, whatever they are, pitot tubes maybe. Probably the cooling intakes, and then these must be actuators or something here. And that all looks really good. I'm not seeing any flash on this particular one. The mold seam line here is very minimal, and it should be easy to clean up. And it's nice that, you know, it has a simple tread pattern with just, you know, grooves going across the tires there, so those will be easy to rescribe or clean out or whatever. But yeah, no flash that I can see. Again, really nice detail, rivet detail, everything else. So that should look pretty good. And I like the fact that these things here, the flaps / aileron business here, it's nice that it's all molded on here, so you don't have to worry about knocking stuff off. So Sprue E. We have Sprue F, which is the canopy bits. The separate parts here. You know, I'm not sure that this could be interesting. I think this could be posed open, but basically what they've done with these, so you don't have to worry about this sliding over another part, there is no middle. So like, it looks like this part right here is missing on this. So with these two parts open, they would kind of meet. This part would butt up against this part, leaving a gap here and here, if that makes sense. But it's immaterial because I'm going to be using this and having this thing closed up. No pilot, just closed up. Let's say it's a rainy day at the airfield and they don't want the cockpit to get wet. Then there's this part here. I don't know what it's for. I don't know what it's called, but I have an idea what it's for. I think it goes in front of the cockpit, but we'll see. And then we got a wing light here, it looks like. So that is Sprue F. So that is all of the box contents. Now, real quick, like, I'm just going to touch on this. It shows these numbers here, like for the colors, number 11 is RLM 70, number 12 is RLM 71. So this is just the German, the RLM number that would be the same across all brands of kits. So it doesn't, unless this 11 and 12 and 10, you know, these numbers, unless that is Academy paint brand numbers, there's no references to other brands. Sometimes you'll have a couple of different brands listed on say the, you know, inside cover of the kit instructions saying, you know, for this you would use, you know, like Mr. Hobby, you would use HL70 or whatever, Tamiya XF, blah, blah, blah. Well, this doesn't have that. So it does have the RLM numbers. So that's the important part. So for that, let me show you what I'm going to be using. Okay, so the main colors that I'll be spraying on this kit are going to be RLM 66, which will be the cockpit interior, if I am not mistaken. Oh, here we go. Here's the color callouts here. And again, it doesn't show. It doesn't show, you know, color numbers under. See, I don't even think these are Academy numbers. These are just the ones that they've tagged on for this build. So the ones we have to be concerned about is black gray RLM 66, which is the cockpit interior, number 10. Then we have the underneath is RLM 65, which is that's the underneath color of the aircraft. Then we have RLM 4, which is the yellow that's used on German aircraft, and I think that might be for the spinner, maybe, I'm not sure, but we'll get to that. And then we have RLM 70 and RLM 71, which are the upper surface colors. Okay, so for those colors specific to the RLM numbers, I'm going to be using, for the first time on an entire kit, lacquer-based paints, acrylic lacquers. So here's what we got. We've got RLM4, which is the yellow, and for that, the kit comes with a decal for the band on the rear of the aircraft, and I am not going to be using the decals, so I'm going to use paint to paint that particular marking on the RLM, see, number 8. So the nose of the aircraft that I'm doing, or the tip of the spinner, calls out number 8, which is RLM 04. Okay, that's the one I'm going to be using. So this will also be used for the tip of the spinner. Then we have RLM 65, which is Hellblau, which is the underneath, early war underneath color for German aircraft. It's a little bit more blue, it's a little bluer than the later RLM 76, I believe. But this, since this is kind of a somewhat early war scheme, that will be the underneath color. Then for the top colors, or for the interior color, the cockpit, RLM 66 Schwarzgrau. That's what I'll be using for the cockpit interior. And then we have RLM 70 Schwarzgrün, which is one of the upper camouflage colors. Now when I ordered my paint, my supplier did not have RLM 71, which is the other upper color. So I thought, you know, I'm getting into these acrylic lacquers, so I thought I would try SMS, a Scale Modeler Supply, which I believe this one's out of Australia. I wanted to try this paint as well, so I thought, okay, well, I'll do the other color with the RLM 71 Dunkelgrün, boy, that's a tongue twister, with the SMS paints. So we'll see how that works. But this is the first time I'm going to be using acrylic lacquers exclusively for airbrushing. Now for any of the detail painting and stuff like that, I'll be using my usual Vallejo model color, and yeah, that should be that. So that's the colors I'm going to use. And as I said at the beginning, this is the scheme I'm going to go with for a number of reasons. One of them being that Rudel, however you pronounce his name, he's the most famous of the Stuka pilots, and people have done that kit to death, or that scheme to death. So I'm going with this unknown thing here, just so it's different, something a little bit different. And honestly, another reason is I won't get into it. It gets into politics. I'm not going to do that. So this is the scheme I'm going to go with. So I'm going to use the kit decals, except for the yellow band. I'm going to paint that, but the rest of it will be the decals. I don't have to worry about matching any yellow in any of the decals, because the only things yellow are the band and the tip of the spinner. So that's the scheme I'm going to use. And as I say, I'm going to do this one completely buttoned up with the canopy and everything closed. No pilot inside. It's just going to be static sitting there. And the reason the landing gear is going to be down is because they don't go up. So there you have it. So that's it. That is the end of part 1 of the Academy 1/72 scale Stuka JU87G-1 tank buster. So I hope you'll stick around and follow along on this build. If you have any experience with this kit, maybe put it, some comments in the comments section down below. Let me know what you thought of the kit. Also, if you liked the video, you want to see more of my videos, hit the subscribe button. And if you like this particular video, hit the like button. So until next time, for part 2, when I actually start putting this thing together, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I will see you all later.